Prayers for Scalps. Stories of heroism, cooperation, and admiration between the native and settling civilizations were not shared between locations. Massacres and misunderstanding, exploitation and fear, not to mention the ravages of disease and abductions and general slavery, created rancor and disappointments that carry on today in various less lethal forms than the dense eastern woods and forests of North America. Some Indian groups were completely or nearly wiped out over the past 3 centuries. For instance, a war along the Connecticut River ended in a terrible loss of life following the murder of a single trader, John Oldham, in 1636. 3 years of skirmishes and revenge killings, lasting until 1638, the Pequot War, ended in the Mystic River massacre of an entire Indian village. Massachusetts Governor Bradford at the time purportedly stated, after reviewing an eyewitness account, that the Indians were, quote, frying in the fire, streams of blood quenching the same, and horrible was the stink and scent thereof. But the victory was a sweet sacrifice, and they, the victors, gave prayer thereof to God, unquote. More than a century later, under the Spencer Phipps Proclamation, scalps for male members of the Penobscot tribe over the age of 12 were to be worth 50 pounds, females 25 pounds, male children under 12 netted 25 pounds, and female children under 12 fetched 20 pounds. Within a year of the proclamation, the Massachusetts Assembly voted to raise the ceiling on the bounty to 300 pounds. After the Battle of St. George in the spring of 1758, Thomas Pownall captured the Penobscot River basin and the tribe's homeland. The Phipps Proclamation contributed to the annihilation of the Wabanaki Confederacy, which formerly included between 16 and 30 tribes. 4 tribes exist today in Maine. Quote from a letter of Kirk Francis, Chief Penobscot Indian Nation, to the Honorable Maria Cantwell, Chairwoman, Senate Committee on Indian Affairs, dated September 10, 2013. regarding an ongoing dispute over the name of Washington, D.C.'s professional football team. I quote, "In 1755, the Penobscot started living under the Spencer Phipps Proclamation. This proclamation was in effect for almost 30 years and called for all settlers to hunt Penobscot men, women, and children under its proclamation and be paid a handsome bounty when the scalps were brought in for payment. These scalps were referred to as redskins when tallying up the bounty." For the Penobscot, the use of this word continues to remind our people of this gruesome genocidal act under formal policy. Hundreds of Penobscot were killed during this period of time. This term, redskins, is all but eradicated in the state of Maine in recognition of this appalling history. Unquote. By Kirky Francis. In the Northeast, settlers made peace with Indian groups and then made war, and vice versa. So-called, quote, praying Indians, tribal groups converted to forms of Christian communities, lived side by side with warring Indians. Praying settlers were also warring settlers. Even as settlers in the Tidewater area of Virginia around Jamestown were being massacred, the Pilgrims in New England supped peaceably alongside their Native American admirers. A Pilgrim's letter transported from Plymouth on the ship Fortune described the New World acquaintances as, quote, very trusty, ripe-witted, just. Also, very faithful in their covenant of peace with us, very loving and ready to pleasure us, and we walk as peaceably and safely in the woods as in the highways of England. We entertain them familiarly in our houses, and they as friendly, bestowing their venison on us." Unquote. In England, though, pamphlets and proclamations made laid out objectives to not only convert the savages to God, but to also civilize them. Quote, "The report goeth that in Virginia the people are savage and incredibly rude. They worship the divil, offer their young children in sacrifice unto him, wander up and down like beasts, and in manners and conditions differ very little from beasts, having no art, nor science, nor trade, to employ themselves, or give themselves unto, yet by nature loving and gentle, and desirous to embrace a better condition. Oh, how happy were that man which could reduce his people from brutishness to civility, to religion, to Christianity, to the saving of their souls." Pilgrims had made peace with the Wampanoag chief Massasoit and Algonquin in 1621. But King Philip's War loomed ahead as tension between native cultural norms and the land grabbers all around the Indians escalated. A son of Massasoit, Philip, or Metacome, was not impressed by the settlers' subtle expansionism. His head later ended up on the Plymouth blockhouse site, along with some kin. His wife and child sold in slavery in Bermuda. He had declared to his companion, I quote again, "But little remains of my ancestors' domain. I am resolved not to see the day when I have no country." He complained. The English are so eager to sell the Indians liquor that most of them spend all in drunkenness and then raving upon the sober Indians. Philip, as he became known, then wreaked havoc and death over New England, sparing only part of Rhode Island and the Quaker communities huddled there. Philip's war, oddly, began essentially with the murder and death of one of Plymouth's friendly, educated, converted Christian, a praying Indian, and Philip himself was shot and killed by an Indian named John Alderman on August 12, 1676.